When was the last time you spent several hours completely without checking a screen, just letting a morning or an afternoon unfold, without the glow of a device asking for your attention? Welcome to a quiet space where we can simply pause and reflect together. And please know right from the beginning that this conversation is not about rejecting technology or feeling guilty about the devices we use every day. But rather, it is just about noticing how our constant connection quietly shapes the way we pay attention to the world around us. We live in a truly remarkable time where we can reach across oceans in an instant, learn almost anything with a few taps, and stay woven into the lives of the people we care about. And those are beautiful things that add so much value to our modern existence. Yet, alongside all of this incredible connectivity, many people notice a lingering sense of fullness. A subtle background hum of information that never quite settles, leading us to a quiet realization that sometimes the most powerful reset isn't about doing more, learning a new life hack, or adding another routine to our day, but rather, it is simply about briefly stepping away. You might have heard the phrase digital Sabbath softly floating around in recent conversations, and it is a gentle metaphor used by some people to describe intentionally stepping away from screens or online activity for a short period of time, not as a strict religious requirement, but simply as a personal invitation to experience a little bit of uninterrupted space. This is where the quiet begins. When we look at our daily lives, we often find that our screens have become a constant background presence, softly vibrating in our pockets, lighting up on our desks, and resting on the table during meals, creating an environment where our attention is rarely fully offline. Even when we are engaged in something else, walking through a park or having a conversation, a small part of our awareness is often holding a place for the next notification, the next email, or the next message, leaving us in a gentle state of suspended anticipation. Here is what the pause reveals. When we decide to turn off the phone, close the laptop, and set the tablet in another room for a few hours, the immediate absence of that anticipation creates a new kind of atmosphere, one that might feel just a little bit unfamiliar at first. People often experience a strange, hovering sensation when they initially unplug, a mild restlessness or a subtle impulse to reach out and check a device that isn't there. And that feeling is completely natural, as it is just the mind following a well-worn path of habit. This is the part many people overlook. That initial friction, that slight urge to reconnect, is not a sign that something is wrong, but simply the feeling of our attention trying to find its usual anchor. And when we gently allow that moment to pass, without reacting to it, a different rhythm slowly starts to emerge. We begin to notice the delicate difference between merely being connected to a network and truly being present in our physical surroundings. It can feel like waking up from a daydream, where the edges of the room suddenly become a little sharper, the ambient sounds of our home become a little clearer, and the physical space we occupy takes on a new sense of depth. This is where the quiet begins. Without the steady, continuous stream of external information, opinions, outrages, and images flowing into our awareness, our own thoughts finally have the room to stretch out, wander, and settle. Think about how often we fill the tiny, empty gaps in our day with scrolling, like waiting for a kettle to boil, standing in line at a grocery store, or sitting on the edge of the bed before getting up. These used to be moments of nothing, brief, unstructured pauses where the mind could drift. But now they are so often filled with input, leaving very little true downtime in our modern schedules. By intentionally setting aside an afternoon or an evening without digital input, some find that they can gently reclaim those in-between moments, discovering that they don't always need to be entertained or informed every second of the day. Here is what the pause reveals. A digital Sabbath is not a restriction, and it is certainly not a punishment. we impose on ourselves for enjoying our devices, but rather it is an open space where we can experience the world without a filter. When the digital noise pauses, we might suddenly find ourselves deeply engaged in a conversation, making extended eye contact with a friend or a partner without the familiar distraction of a glowing screen pulling our gaze away. We might notice the rough texture of a physical book, the way the afternoon light shifts across the living room floor, or the simple, grounding feeling of chopping vegetables for dinner. Without listening to a podcast at the same time, this is the part many people overlook. These small, tactile experiences are always there, quietly waiting for us, but they are easily overshadowed by the bright, fast-moving, and endlessly fascinating world inside our screens. People often experience a sense of restored curiosity when they take a deliberate step back, finding that they suddenly have the mental space to explore a hobby they have set aside, or simply to go for a long walk and observe their neighborhood without any particular destination in mind. Feeling the weather, noticing the trees, and just existing in the moment. It is in these moments of chosen disconnection that many people notice a gentle return to themselves, a softening of the rush that so often accompanies our modern lives. This is where the quiet begins. You don't need complicated systems, extreme digital detox rules, or a desire to quit the internet. Because a digital Sabbath is beautifully adaptable to whatever feels right for your unique life. For some, it might mean turning off all devices from sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday. While for others, it might simply mean leaving the phone in a drawer for 3 quiet hours on a Sunday morning. The specific duration matters so much less than the gentle intention behind it, which is to create a deliberate, loving boundary between the time we are available to the world and the time we are available to our immediate physical surroundings. Notice the quiet relief that can come from knowing, just for a little while, that you do not have to reply to anyone. You do not have to react to any news, and you do not have to capture or document your life. Here is what the pause reveals. It is a profound permission to just be, to exist fully in the physical space you occupy without the invisible tether of constant accessibility. Work messages, social media updates, and the endless stream of content will all be there waiting. And they won't have lost any of their value, but you might find that your relationship to them has shifted. By taking a brief digital Sabbath, some find that they return to their devices with much more intention, consciously using them as the incredible tools they are, rather than falling into them as a default state. This practice gently interrupts the automatic cycle of reaching for a screen the moment boredom strikes, subtly teaching us that boredom is not something to be feared or immediately cured with a quick scroll, but rather a natural, resting state of the mind that often leads to spontaneous creativity. This is the part many people overlook. When we stop filling every single quiet moment with external noise, we start to hear our own internal voice again, the fleeting thoughts, the quiet ideas, and the subtle observations that so easily get drowned out in the busy current of the internet. It is so incredibly easy to spend an entire day reacting to what other people are doing or saying, that we occasionally forget to experience our own unscripted moments, the ones that unfold naturally. A digital Sabbath offers a gentle recalibration, a way to balance the unprecedented access we have to the digital world with the deeply human, essential need to exist fully in the physical one. This is where the quiet begins. Many people notice that this simple practice doesn't just change the quality of the time they spend offline, but it also changes the quality of the time they spend online, making them slightly more discerning about what they consume and where they direct their valuable attention. It can feel a lot like taking a deep, slow breath after being underwater for a long time. A brief, centering moment to orient yourself before joyfully diving back into the flow of information. There is no right or wrong way to try this experiment, and if you find yourself reaching for your phone out of habit, There is absolutely no need to judge yourself, because the goal is not perfection but simply awareness. Just noticing that habit, observing the reflex without criticism, is an incredibly valuable part of the experience. Here is what the pause reveals. You might find it helpful to let a few close friends know. If you plan to be unreachable for a longer stretch, to give yourself the true freedom to unplug. Preparing for a digital Sabbath in this way is an act of care for yourself, setting the stage.